So I want to talk a little bit about the charging situation outside of the house. 80% of us are going to just charge at home, and that's all that we need. 80% of us. But there are public charging stations out there, and that's what these numbers are. If you look at the circle, maybe down in Florida, 192. That's the amount of charging stations that are in that area, and the little green bar, I guess, if you will, are the ones that are being used and the ones that are available right now. This is a certain time that I looked at this, took a snapshot in time, because this uses cellular technology to let you know if these if the charging stations are being used or not by a vehicle. So you can look on your cell phone and see real time whether or not that charging station is available or not. Kind of cool.
Where's number 1 in the Northwest?
Looks like Puerto Rico. This one here is in Puerto Rico.
No, number 1 in the Northwest.
It's you can zoom in on this map. As a matter of fact,
Portland maybe?
Yeah.
Mackinac Island.
100% usage.
Actually, I think the green means. Let me zoom in on Florida real quick, because I'm not worried about the Northwest. I'm a native Floridian, so I don't worry about them.
I like that one.
So here's Florida. I think green means it's available, and the white means it's. I can't remember, vice versa. But you can see some are totally green and some are totally white, whether they're being used or not. And again, if you zoom in on your phone, you can see the actual charging station that you actually need.
So tell us about the charging stations. Only one car can charge at a time?
Correct. Each of those numbers, only one car can charge at a time. But these are public charging stations. So we try to center these charging stations around places that we call them destination locations. That's good, right, Larry? Destination locations. The mall. The mall has 16 charging stations at it. So the new mall. That's the type of place you want people to spend their time, because they'll spend their money. Real quickly, I'm gonna tell my Kohl's story. When I first got the car, my mom and dad live on the east coast of Florida. So I got this Chevy Volt, and we're trying to figure out what that's all about. And we drive across to Arcadia. We get to Arcadia and switches to gas. And we're going up to see mom and dad. And I looked on my phone to see if there's any charging stations over in Brevard County. There's like 2. One was at a Nissan dealer, and then one was right off the interstate. Is in a place called Kohl's. I'm like, hey, honey, we've never been to a Kohl's before. Let's jump off real quick and check out the Kohl's place, and I'll get some. Now, I don't know about getting electricity. Larry knows. So I'm like, let's just get some electricity. And we go in there. My wife bought $400 worth of dishes. Now I'm getting the free electricity, right? I'm getting the free electricity. So I go up to the store manager and I tell the store manager, I say, look, I wouldn't even be in your store. I would not even be in your store if you didn't have that charging station out there. So it's an economic incentive for businesses to look at these charging stations, because people are going to spend their time and their money around these things. So
it's a very expensive tank.
It's a very expensive 10 miles of charge I think I got. It wasn't even much. But anyway, here's a charging station. This is what they look like. There's one right down here at the end of the parking lot. Most of them look like this. This has got a 240 plug over here, and then there's a 110 that's inside this little contraption. And you can just plug the 110 into your car if you have that. Yes, sir.
Now that's got both the 110 and 240. If someone's plugged into the 240, can you do the 110?
Absolutely. Yep. And some of them. Yeah, correct. And some of them actually have 2 240s. Right. So they have 2 separate. So yeah. Good question.
What is the charge time if you don't?
Sure. The charge time is completely dependent on the car. It depends on what car you have. The Chevy Volt will charge. Great. Good. I've got this table. It has all the cars. And we do this every year. We update it. About 4 years ago, we had that many cars available. Okay. Now it's grown, and I don't think I'm going to fit it next year on a one sheet. But I'll give you this, and it has charge times for different charging level 1, level 2, and level 3. Level 1 is your 110. That's a 110. It's a wall outlet. It takes a long time. The Volt will charge in 10 hours on 110. So I'll go to a hotel. I'll find an outlet somewhere on the outside of the building near a parking spot, pull the Volt in there, plug my car in. The next morning, I've got 40 miles of electric, and then it's got the gas.
Now, are the dealers selling the 110 with the car or not?
Yes, the 110. I know that's the case for the Volt. I don't know if that's the case for the Leaf or anything else.
Leaf has
Ford has
a bag with charging thing in the back.
So Leaf has a 110. Ford has a 110. So the 110s do come. It seems like most of, and that's pretty standard. Yeah, especially Leaf, because it doesn't have gas backup.
To give an idea about the difference in charging, Chris was talking about, it takes how many hours for a Volt?
10 on 110, takes a long time.
It takes 3 days on 110 for a
Model S.
to fully charge.
Wow.
So
Because the battery's so big.
So it really varies with the car and the type of charge.
But you wouldn't use that.
No, you never would.
So-
Plug it into
You would if you were leaving your car, you know.
Yeah, right.
And so the Volt, just in comparison, on level 1 or 110, it takes 10 hours. But on level 2 or 240 volts, it takes 3.5. So it's less than half the time. And then even faster, there's something called DC fast charging, which is even faster than that.
Did you know there is one of those in Sarasota?
Cattleman Road, yes sir,
I
yes
just
sir.
found it the other day, and I
Yep.
needed it.
I'd be happy to help anybody with the charging solutions. That's something that we're, having done this a couple of years, I'm kind of familiar with. So this is a different type of charger that Tesla actually has installed across the nation. Every one of these red dots is what they call a supercharger. And this thing, man, that battery that takes 3 days on 110, it'll charge 80% in 30 minutes.
Yep.
I mean, it is like, I mean, it will juice it up quick.
And you, excuse me.
Yeah, go ahead, Larry.
Your question was, because you only have one on a location. Well, in the case of these are like gas stations, so they'll have like 4 to 12
Stations.
pumps
Yeah.
with the, so
And the neat thing too is the cars will let you know where they are, but also they'll show you all the list of restaurants. How nice is that if you're a listed restaurant on the car?
Yeah.
Part of the car software. How nice is that? I mean, from a business perspective, this makes a lot of sense.
it's on the NASA's, when you push the button, even if you didn't know where it was, the car will take you there.
So again, we'll zoom in on Florida, and this is what I love about Prezi. Yeah, very cool. Here's what they look like. So here's a couple charging stations. Where's this one, Larry? Is this Fort Myers? What are we doing here? Okay, so that's the one in Fort Myers. And here's one in California. And ultimately, this is what they want. They want to have a solar panel over the top of all these charging bays. And that solar will put more electricity into the grid all day long than the cars will need. And so net zero, that's ultimately where we want to go, right? I mean, right? That would be the brilliant cure-all, end-all, no emissions whatsoever, where we need to go. Just going to see how long it takes us to get there. This is the cost of electricity since about when I started driving, back when it was about $1. 1988. The blue line represents the actual cost, and then the red line is a trend line that I put in. Obviously, up until last year, right? I mean, this number is kind of skewing things, but it's not a linear increase. This is an exponential curve. This means it's getting a lot more expensive. I love the fact that we finance a car for 5 years. Do we think about what gas prices are going to be in 5 years? Why not? Shouldn't we? I think that's something we really need to start thinking about, particularly as things continue to be so volatile. And when we compare that with electricity, there's something called an e-gallon. You can go to energy.gov. This is the EPA website that says what it costs. This is nationwide, $2.55 across the nation for a gallon of gasoline. About $1.28 is what the cost of that equivalent in electricity. So if gas prices drop to $1.38 a gallon, then it will be equivalent to buying gas as using electricity. Don't think they're going to drop to $1.38. I hope they won't anyway. And here's what it is in Florida, slightly cheaper, again, because we're using so much natural gas in Florida. This is an interesting graph that shows in green the gas prices and the volatility of gas prices over the last 15 years, as opposed to electricity costs, which are the blue line. And this gets back to that whole idea of volatility. You wake up the next morning and there's a war across the world, a part of the world, or something affects the trade or whatever, and our gas prices spike. Not cool. Where we have public service commissions, PSCs, that govern FPL, and they make sure the FPL can't jack the rates 1 year from one to the next. Anybody from FPL in here? Okay, good. This is another graph from my book that an internal combustion engine vehicle might cost you $23,000 versus my $32,000 for my Volt. Okay, it might cost that much more, that amount. But looking at the ownership, total cost of ownership over 8 years, this is what's on the window sticker of a car. EPA sets all these numbers. So all these numbers over here are all based on the window sticker, okay? That's not Chris's numbers. The only numbers mine is the 119 for my volt. That was the number I used for the volt. 12 cents a kilowatt hour, and $3.80 for gas. That was back when I was doing the study about a year ago. But looking at the total cost, you're going to spend $21,000 on gasoline for that $23,000 car over 8 years, as opposed to $2,200 in gas or $3,400 in electricity costs. So you have to look at that total cost of ownership. One more graph that I love. So before I had this little Chevy Volt, I had this Jeep. I had this all-wheel drive 6.1 liter Hemi that went 0 to 60 in like 5 seconds, even in the rain. It was amazing. It was, I got 11 miles a gallon. It cost me 34 cents for every mile that I drove. That's that far right graph. Every mile it cost me 34 cents, just in fuel, not tires or any of that other stuff. My electricity cost when I'm on the electricity with the volts is about 3 cents a mile, as opposed to 33 cents a mile. I mean, factor of 10 different. 85% of my driving is on electricity, so I'm about 4 cents every mile that I'm driving overall. And then when I'm on gasoline, I'm getting 37 miles a gallon anyway, so it's about 10 cents a mile, which is about what a Prius is getting. I'm almost done. So let's talk a little bit about the momentum. This is from a study that Insight EVs put together, looking back to the infancy of electric vehicles. I bought my car right March, April, May. I bought my car this year right here. And so you can see this is, again, an exponential curve. It's an exponential adoption rate. Very unlike the adoption of the Prius and the hybrids. That was a linear adoption. So this is, people are getting this quicker. And so this curve is going to continue further.
That's all plug-ins.
This is all, correct. The red is new sales that particular month, and then the blue is the cumulative. So this was 2011. I had like a choice. I could either buy a Tesla, I couldn't afford it yet, a Nissan, or I could buy a Chevy Volt. And then we had people starting to wake up. We had all these manufacturers finally starting to say, what's Apple doing on there? What about Virgin Records? Virgin Records and Apple are looking at electric cars? Why is that?
You gotta keep up with Google.
Yeah, I got to keep up with Google, right? And this, electric Harley? Really? Yeah, Yeah, why? Because the torque is instantaneous. If you've driven this car, you'll see you hit the accelerator and it just, boom, and it's just a linear pull into your seat. It's amazing. And so you've got to go test drive one if you can while you're here today. If you take anything with you today, the bottom line, this is what to take home. EV plus PV, photovoltaic, equals 0 emissions. This is the end game. This is where we have to go. I mean, this is the ultimate sustainability, where we have to go as a society. How quickly we get there, it's up to us. We have a choice now. We have a choice not just in the cars, the shapes, the sizes, all kinds of different vehicles out there now. There's even some that tow. A lot of folks want a big truck. ViaMotors.com, VIAMotors.com. Yes, it will be more expensive than a regular Sierra or Silverado, but it will go 30 miles on a charge and then another 300 on gasoline. Check that out if you need a truck. Any particular questions? Yes, sir.
A question about the individual charging stations. For instance, I understand that Tesla stations do not charge for charging a Tesla, but the charging station at Starbucks here in the Redwood Range has a little section on there for using your credit card.
Correct.
Do they charge? Don't charge?
The reason that the credit card is on there, I actually sell some of the charging equipment itself now. That's something I just started doing a couple months ago. The reason it's there is to know who's using it. Right now, on the map, and I've got lots of these, folks, I hope you'll take one, but on the map you'll see the green charging stations in Sarasota are free. They still show the little Visa logo. You have a card on the end of your card, little charge point card, RFID, you wave that, they know who unlocked the mechanism. That's what that does. They know who it is. The blue ones in Bradenton, you can still use the same thing, and then you get billed for it. We like to say billed instead of charged, because then it gets confusing with charged. But right now, the one on Lakewood Ranch is a public free charging station, and it will plug into any vehicle out there with particular adapters. Tesla needs an adapter in order to convert the end of that into their plug, right? And it's a J1772 is the Society of Automotive Engineers came up with the plug. And most of the vehicles, the Ford, the Leaf, the Volt, and BMW all plug in directly to this J1772 plug. Any other questions? Yes, sir.
Go back to one of the charts you had up here, Chris. You had the payback time is about 50,000 miles. Once you get beyond that, then it becomes cheaper, so to speak, to have the electric vehicle. You have a simpler engine system. You have an inverter, so you don't have the future maintenance problems of combustion. But you do have only a certain life cycle on batteries. What's your cost long term?
Those are great points, both on the maintenance side that it's cheaper to own an electric vehicle and it's cheaper to maintain an electric vehicle from a maintenance standpoint. I've done one oil change on my Chevy Volt in 78,000 miles.
I don't have it.
And he didn't even have it. So yes, the battery costs. My Volt was $32,000, and the battery to replace the battery replacement cost is $3,200. Actually, that was 2 years ago. The cost of these batteries are coming way down. The Volt has an 8-year, 100,000-mile warranty on its battery, charging, drive, electric, all of that system is 8-year, 100,000 miles. I don't know what the Leaf is.
Yeah, that's the
Same, probably the same.
equals out. Mine's 8 years, and that means the battery can't get less than 80%. Right.
Yeah, Tesla has, most of them have unlimited miles, but it's also an 8-year. So, but in fairness to the question, batteries cost a lot now.
Yeah.
And if they cost as much in 8 years, that would definitely change the equation quite a bit. But as Chris said, we're making good progress on that.
And there's a battery factory going in Nevada, the Gigafactory is being built that will drive battery prices way
They
down.
expect 30%, just on economies of scale, no breakthroughs. They expect to reduce their battery cost by 30%.
Yes, sir.
This is sort of a sidebar, but I heard this thing on, or saw this thing on television the other day where maybe Florida is one of the states that does that, but there's legislation out there that prevents people from sharing or selling solar energy to someone else. Okay, how is that going to impact these charging stations?
I don't know if it's going to impact the charging stations. It certainly impacts the way we buy, produce, and sell electricity. No one from FPL is in here, right? Larry and I are going to Tallahassee on Wednesday and Thursday next week.
Over that subject?
Over this subject and electric vehicles during Drive Electric Week, but there's something called Solar Floridians for Solar Choice.
Yes.
Thank you. There's something very similar that's the opposite, but Floridians for Solar Choice, and there's a petition right now trying to gather enough signatures to get this to the state level, where you can put the solar photovoltaic on your roof, and you can sell the electricity to the grid at the same rate they're billing you for it. That's the big key, because right now people can put PV on their roof, but they're only selling it to FPL or to the power company at a wholesale rate, which is like 6 cents a kilowatt hour when you're buying it for 11 cents a kilowatt hour. So if you could sell it back at 11 cents a kilowatt hour, what it costs you to buy it from them, then that whole equation changes dramatically on the payback for photovoltaic. Did that help?
Well, I was also thinking about if, say, someone has in the California where they have the solar panels to charge, if you can't sell that electricity, you can't share it with someone else.
That's not how it works.
Yeah, and what you've got to do, the grid is like a big battery itself. All that electricity is trickling in from the solar. It's trickling into the grid at a very slow rate over a longer duration. These cars need to be charged quickly the photovoltaic cannot charge the car directly quick enough. Does that make sense? They have a photovoltaic array and 4 charging stations at UCF in Orlando. And you put your car in there, and we walked the campus, we were all over the place. I came back, I got 1 mile of range. Because it's a very, very, very slow trickle. And so you have to really rely on the grid to be able to store that energy, essentially like a big battery, store that energy for when you need to yank it out real fast and juice that Tesla.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So that's kind of one of the reasons you're reliant on the grid with
Then-
PV.
And then you may have heard about battery storage solutions, especially Tesla and Solar City. You put those 2 technologies together, the photovoltaics and the battery storage, and then you hook that up to in this case, a charging station. Now you can use cheap electricity to charge your battery at night and discharge it during the day when the rates are higher. You know,
that makes
so
sense.
And wouldn't it be neat to be able to run your house on a battery pack in the garage rather than a generator that uses gas? Wouldn't that be cool?
Especially if you could buy the juice at night when, and store it up in your batteries.
Right. Those solutions are, just the battery alone could be economical without photovoltaics.
Yeah, and some of the EVs are all ready to be programmed with the what's called time of use rates. The power companies in a lot of places will give a discount in the middle of the night because it's off their peak. I get home from work at 5, I plug in. That's their peak hour, right? Everybody's coming home, the air conditioners are all kicking on, everybody's cooking dinner. That's the last time in the world of all the 24 hours in a day they want me plugging in my car. So what they're trying to do, in some places, not Florida, they're trying to incentivize folks, hey, we'll give it to you only for 8 cents a kilowatt hour if you do it at midnight. And these cars are smart enough now. My 2011 can be told to come on at midnight when the rate is cheaper and charge itself. I mean, the technology's there. It's some of this political will that we're going to need at the state levels in order to incentivize things.
Yeah, I looked at trying to get mine set up that way, and it cost me more for electricity, because you can set it up and you get different rates at night or day, but you got to pay, you pay more during the day.
Could, yeah, during the day.
Yeah, so it wasn't, I couldn't see any reason why I would want to do it.
You can save money, but you need to be sure that your usage is off peak, otherwise you could be losing money.
Right, yeah, that's what it turned out, I was gonna lose money if I charged mine at work.
Any other questions or?
Does it damage the battery? Say you ran down a Tesla and you wait till midnight to charge it? Since that battery's down, is it hurting the battery?
It's not good to discharge a battery.
Right.
It's not really hurting it, but it's not a good thing to do. And most of us don't, you know, just like your cell phone, is a good example. You know, you top your cell phone off, you top Teslas off. We don't charge 265 miles. That's what the range is. So how many times do you drive 265 miles a day? You know, 95% of all trips in the United States are less than 40 miles. 95% of all trips. So the vast majority of us, including Tesla owners, are only topping off. I spend less than an hour a day charging because I don't drive to Tallahassee, that sort of thing. But yeah, you don't want to discharge any battery, but it's not going to
Say you
kill it.
forget, or.
It's not going to kill it.
Well, the cars themselves won't overcharge themselves, and they won't let themselves get too depleted. The Volt, when it first came out, they didn't let it go over 80%, and they let it go below 20%. 2 years later, they knew they built in some conservatism, so they opened up that window to 85 and 15. So there's some built-in conservatism, engineering really that went into this. So, do you have a question, sir?
I do. When will the next version of the Tesla be out?
When will the next version of the Tesla be out?
Are you talking the next model, like Model X, or?
Yeah.
The SUV?
They're gonna have a ceremony the 29th of this month.
29th of this month will be the
Give
first
the
delivery.
keys to the first owners. These are Foundation Series owners, Founder Series. Founder Series are Tesla insiders who bought the car. And so then subsequently, they'll start giving them, they'll start making them for the rest of us.
Does that answer your question?
So it's about a 2-year waiting list?
Oh, no. Well, I guess it's 8 months.
I don't know.
What's the X?
I don't
waiting
think that anyone knows what the waiting list seriously because they haven't really started serious production yet. I mean, there's probably a party line, but I don't think anybody really knows as to what it's gonna be. But I doubt if it's a couple of years.
The X will tow, the X will go 200 miles on the charge, not gonna be anywhere near as efficient as the Model S
It's gonna be pretty
because of the aerodynamics. But it is an SUV.
It's a 5,000-pound car, you know.
So what's its range?
200 to 210. something.
No, I think the 85 is 240 miles.
They've got different size batteries.
And miles per gallon?
Oh, MPGE is what they call it. It's an equivalent miles per gallon.
Right, it'll be close to
88.
nine. It'll be, yeah, around 88 miles per gallon.
And it'll be a tow vehicle.
It can tow.
5,000 pounds.
Certainly, that's going to
5,000
reduce
pounds.
its range.
But and it seats 7 adults.
Right.
So it's a bigger car.